Hey everybody, Ben here again for another BS Ramble, and this week I just want to let everybody know that my older brother shit his pants till he was in about grade 4. Um, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I'm trying something new with the video this week where I figured out how to go fast motion for some of the parts. So because I felt weird like just starting a game off without showing the draft. So I'm hoping that by speeding up like this, you can kind of see how everyone drafted. And I did the same with deaths, right? Because a lot of stuff goes on during deaths, but from what I've been told, people don't really care about watching while you're dead. They just kind of want to see your gameplay. If they're watching you play, they want to look at your gameplay, right? So I'm trying that out, and I cut out the loading screen, so don't worry about that. So hopefully it works better. Let me know what you guys think. If you prefer this, or if you just want me to cut out this crap altogether. It doesn't really matter to me. It's just whatever is going to look the best. So I'm just fiddling with some different things. Anyways, back to my older brother and his poop capades. He literally pooped his pants till he was in grade 4. So I'm 3 years younger than him. So I was in grade 1. So I was young enough. Like, these might be like some of my first memories of this guy. Like, I was young enough that he was old enough that 3 years younger brother, when I found out that he pooped his pants at school, I was like, what the fuck? How does anyone poop their pants? Like, no one that I knew in my social circle of 6-year-olds poop their pants. Meanwhile, this guy, who is one of my 9 subscribers, so he may hear this, was pooping his pants at school. He might tell a different story. Speaking of him lying about poops, though, there was this one time, and he denies this to this day, which pisses me off, but it's actually one of the things that I respect the most about him if we're looking back on my memory of my childhood. So the way that our old childhood home was laid out was my little brother and I shared a room on the upstairs, and next to our room was his room, and both of those rooms had sliding doors onto a small balcony. And this small balcony overhung the lower porch of the main floor, and the lower porch of the main floor went out about 30 feet off of the house into the yard. So a lot of the time our dog was tied up on this lower balcony, and our upstairs balcony from our rooms would hang about a third of the way over it. So we had a bit of privacy when we were out there because it extends off of our rooms. So anyways, we're out there one time. I'm maybe 4 years old. Like, again, these are early memories for me. So here's how the memory starts. I'm on the deck, squatting, pants off. He's trying to convince me to take a shit on the deck. And I'm old enough that I know I'm not supposed to shit on the deck, but I'm young enough that if my older brother tells me to shit on the deck, I'm going to give it an honest try. So I'm out there giving it an honest try, and I'm just like, the social conditioning is too much. I'm too much of a bitch. I can't do it. And then finally I boil over. I'm trying. I boil over to a point where I'm like, you know what? You do it. You do it if it's so hard. And I thought I had him. I was like, checkmate. That's the first time I've ever thought about calling someone else on their crap like that. So I think I've got this guy. He pulls down his pants. He's about 6 years old, 7 years old. And just immediately, like, he had this thing in the hopper. Whop! Drops the biggest shit a 7-year-old's ever dropped right on our balcony. And the thing's just fucking sitting there. And here's the most vivid part of the memory for me. He runs into his room, and he comes out with one of those big old I Spy books. And it's a hardcover book with it's only got like 15 pages in it. So it's basically just a big old plank. And he goes up to his shit, and he just shovels this thing over to the railing, and there's a little gap between the railing and the base of the deck, and he just shovels it right off that gap. He's so young, he never, like, we didn't have the mental development to realize that out of sight did not mean out of existence altogether. So he shovels this thing off the balcony, and we're all done, right? We wipe our hands of the thing. Meanwhile, 8 feet below, flap, this big shit falls onto our balcony. Our dog, tied up down there, eats the thing. And he ends up having to go to the vet because he got so sick. And when the dog went to the vet, that's when he started lying about this. And that's why I really think people should know. Because lying is wrong. Dan tried to lie about that. Now, he and my 8 other subscribers know the true story. And you know what? I feel like sometimes like there's telling moments in people's lives when you learn about what kind of person they're going to be, right? And I don't understand why he denies this, because that is one of the most gangster things I've ever seen him do. Like he was talking the talk, I called him on it, and then he walked the walk at the ripe young age of 7 years old. He pulled down his pants and he shit on that deck on the spot. And that's goddamn impressive. And he's still that guy today, which I really respect. And on that topic, my younger brother, speaking of childhood experiences that are telling, young Colin, when we were in Mexico one time, we went to Mexico, we spent the whole time snorkeling. I was in grade 9. I distinctly remember because I lied to my friends and told them that I had gotten a hand job on that trip, which I hadn't, but all my friends were getting hand jobs in grade 9 and I wasn't. So what do? What any good young man does, and he lies to his friends. So that's why I know it was in grade 9, which puts him in grade 7, which makes him like 12 or 13, like a teenager. He's a teenage boy at this time. So we're snorkeling, and this sunfish comes up to us. And if you don't know what a sunfish is, you should look it up, because it's one of those big flat fish. It's like a disc, or it might have been a parrotfish. Anyways, one of those big flat fish, totally harmless thing, swims up to us, and it was weird. It was so interested in us, and it specifically Colin. So we're in the water, and it keeps on coming right up to him and just kind of like floating there. It wasn't really doing anything, but just really getting kind of in his face, and it was bizarre. So anyways, he hates this thing. He starts kind of freaking out, like what the hell does this fish want with me? So I'm being the big brother. So I start scaring this thing away, right? So I could scare it away a couple times, but it keeps on coming back to him. And he ends up getting so scared in the water that he breaks down crying. And not just crying, but like crying. So I'm like, okay, this is fine. Like, we can still snorkel today, but what we'll do is we'll go up the beach. We'll get out of the water. We'll walk up the beach about 200 yards, and we'll get back in, and then we can snorkel again, right? And I do not know how this happened. To this day, I don't know how this happened. We get out of the water, and we're about 6 feet out of the water, and it's a beach, right? So this thing we were like 15 yards deep in this water to be frolicking with this fish. We get out of the water, walk up the beach about 200 yards. We get back into the water, and in about 10 seconds, that same fucking fish is there chasing Colin again. I have no idea how that fish did that, but this thing was obsessed with him. He starts crying his eyes out, runs out of the water, tells my dad the whole story, and I confirm it. Like, yeah, this fish is like weirdly obsessed with Colin. He refused to swim the rest of that day. And he might not be quite as young as Dan, but he's still that guy. He's still the guy that runs away from the fish. Colin, listen up. If I know today if a fish came at you that was the same proportion to your size, you would still run away. Which makes me think of the next thing I wanted to talk about, because I've been going longboarding with Colin quite a bit. So finally, I decided I'd pull the trigger and I'd get a new longboard. So I walked into one of those stores, like skate shops at the mall, right? They're a dime a dozen, these skater stores. So I'm walking past and I see a store. It's got all these skateboards in the window. I'm like, okay, I'll check this place out. I walk in, and this place, despite having a bunch of skateboards on their display, sold everything to do with skateboarding except for anything to do with skateboarding. It's basically just like the poser shack. Like, and they were all like this. I went to 3 different stores. I went to Zoomies, West 49, and what was the other one? There was one other one. For anyone that actually skateboards, if they listen to this, they're probably right now like, yeah, obviously those aren't going to be the stores. But yeah, I thought these were skate stores. But what they are is they're just like poser shacks. You go in there and they have nothing. They have like just enough skateboard merchandise to call themselves a skateboard store, which is probably exactly an exact reflection of who their demographic is. People who dress like skateboarders but own like the Walmart board that their parents bought them when they were 5 years old. Anyways, I did end up buying a longboard from one of those stores. It ended up dropping like $300 on the thing, but it's so awesome. I really love it. I felt like such a dweeb walking in there, because you go in there and it's like, again, it's not real skaters working there, but it's like it's people who like want to be skaters. So they're like, they hire a bunch of people who kind of fit their store, right? So what that is like a 16-year-old with long hair who's mad at his parents, and he can ollie, and he can do like the kind of thing that like wannabe skateboarders do, where they'll like go and do like a quote unquote trick, but what they'll really do is they'll just fucking jump and like launch the board 20 feet, and then they'll be like, damn it, why can't I land it right now? It's just because you guys are watching. So they just shoot the thing out from underneath their feet. Anyways, I'm in there wearing like my nerd jerseys from work, like my insurance salesman khaki pants and collared golf shirt. You know what the worst thing? Oh, there's a couple things that have happened actually since I've started working full time. One thing is that I really thought that my wardrobe game was going to increase, because I've been a broke student, and I mean broke student, for 5 years. Yeah, it took me 5 years. I'm not too ashamed of it. I'm a little ashamed of it. But yeah, anyways, 5 years as like a broke as fuck student. So my clothes were basically like whatever I could afford, right? Whatever my parents would buy me at Christmas and stuff. Whether I liked it or not, I'd wear that stuff. So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm working full time. I'm going to be getting paid a salary. My wardrobe game is going to increase big time. What I did not realize was that dress clothes cost significantly more than casual clothes. And when your time is spent, like every waking hour of the day, I spend pretty much working, right? Like I get up in the morning on a weekday. I don't put on casual wear. I put on my work clothes. I go to work. And then when I get home from work, I get the fuck out of those clothes. And you know what I don't feel like putting on at that point? Jeans and a t-shirt. I move straight into my comfiest sweatpants or pajamas, because finally you got no one to impress, right? Like I'm just in my apartment. I want to be as comfy as possible. So what's happened is, instead of my overall clothing quality increasing, there's just been this rift that's opened up in the middle, where I either own dress clothes or I own like bedtime clothes or like loungewear. So I really don't own a single piece like I haven't owned a pair of jeans in like over 8 months, just because like when the fuck do I get to wear jeans? Like never, right? It just doesn't come up anymore. That was a bad death for anyone who's actually paying attention to this. That pissed me off, and that was the start of my decline in this game. So here's a huge issue with my wardrobe right now, and it's pretty fixable, but it comes up. So I have gone through what many a young man who's gone through, and that's where my hair is migrating backwards. So instead of having a hairline at the front of my forehead, I've got one halfway back up my head, and that hair that used to be on top of my head has now migrated to my shoulders and back. And usually I'll shave that shit up. I'm not going to be one of those people with hair sticking out of every space of their shirt. But where my shaving line is, because you put in minimum effort, right? So where my shaving line is where my collared shirts cover. So I go to the mall in my crew neck, and I get home and I look in the mirror and I realize that I've got like a line of back hair that sticks out like 2 inches above a crew neck. So I just look like this fucking like disgusting, doesn't care what they look like, no hygiene, hairy ape at the mall the whole time. So I shaved that shit up right away. But as like, you can't shave your whole back. You can't shave your whole back, because that's a lifetime commitment. Because as soon as you shave it once, you get stubble, and then once you have stubble, it starts catching on your shirt and shit. Trust me, you don't want to shave your whole back. So what I've decided to do is, if you take your arm, you know that old stretch you do where you like tuck one arm behind your back and you reach over your shoulder behind your head and you grab your hands together? I can barely grab my hands together, but that top arm, that's where I take the razor to, right? And I never thought anything of it until I got changed at a soccer game in front of my brothers. I just had to take one shirt off, and they noticed that line on my back where I've just got this like line of hair, like some continental divide. And they just tore me to shreds and pointed it out to everyone, of course. That was pretty horribly embarrassing. I honestly don't understand how this stuff isn't fixed yet. Like, they've done everything. If hair loss was a problem that women had, I guarantee it would be solved by now. Like, they're getting fake butts, they get implants, they get cellulite treatments. Girls get everything. Any part of your body that a girl could be insecure with, they have gone to the greatest lengths to research and solve those issues. But because men don't complain, I don't really know shit, but because men don't complain about their going bald, which so many men are insecure about, it's just not fixed. Like, you can get hair plugs if you're rich, but those are for weirdos. There's some medications that you can take, but I hear they make your dick go limp, so no one wants to touch those. There's Rogaine, which no one knows is a scam or not. I genuinely do not understand how that has not been fixed yet. Like, that is such a prolific, widespread issue, and it's just like, in 2017 we're on Mars, but men still go bald and no one can solve it. God, yeah. I do one more. I think I do one more bad suicide after this game. I was having such a good game up to this point that I felt like I was invincible. So that was so not worth for me to take out that Nova there, but I had a decent team, luckily, and they don't lose the game here. And Asmodan, oh, man. Yeah, I really thought I was going to lose the game right here. I was getting ready to, like, backdoor them because I took the global ultimate, right? So sometimes you can sneak back if your minions are pushing their base. You can ult a minion and get back to their base, and Illidan does so much single target damage you can kind of toast it down, but luckily we had waves pushing there, so we ended up being able to send a couple of them back and get these guys out. Like, hair loss is one of those things that it's not just, like, it feels like it's one of those things where you're not even wondering, like, it doesn't seem like it would be a good thing to have it fixed. It seems like it would just be, like, not a shitty thing, you know? Like, this is one of those things that's just, like, shitty that happens that they haven't solved yet. And it's a $1 billion thing. Like, apparently this is, like, the most difficult thing to solve ever. Anyways, I did not fucking want to talk about my hair for this long, so I apologize. But speaking of things that are, like, shitty, I always wondered when someone asks you to do a favor, it strikes me as odd that if you were to say no to doing a favor for someone, that they would be happy if you said yes, but angry if you were to say no, right? Because they're just back in the same place where they started if you were to say no. So you would think that it should just be neutral. Okay, that's the last horrific mistake, ultimate death that I make this game. So thank you for... I don't know. I don't have to thank you guys for shit. You didn't do anything. You guys don't even fucking leave comments. Even my closest friends don't leave comments. Jericho left a comment one time. And that's been it. Leave some comments, you fucking assholes. This will get me some more views if you leave comments. Aaron, Dan, Jericho, Colin, talking to you guys. Even if you don't have an account, make an account. Leave a comment. What I wanted to say was that it's weird to me when things that are good if they go right and neutral if they go bad, that you would make that bad. So an example of this, and I caught myself doing this today, but this is when I actually stand by, is when someone holds a door for you, you feel thankful, right? Like, you give them a smile, you say thank you. That's a nice, polite thing for you to do. But if someone doesn't hold a door for you, my immediate reaction is fuck you. You know? Like, this chick I'm walking in, she was a nurse. She's in full scrubs, or like a dental assistant or something. I'm walking into Mr. Sub today. This chick sees me because I'm walking 90 degrees from her. She goes in front of me. She walks in, literally a stride and a half in front of me, and she just fucking lets the door close in my face. And I stood for a second, and I watched this. I, like, stopped in front of the door, and I watched this thing close all the way, and then reopened it and walked in. I was just looking at this chick like, oh, like, you're a rude as fuck person, you know? But then that kind of got me thinking about, like, well, I mean, she didn't do me any wrong. Like, it's not like if she wasn't here, I wouldn't have had to open the door. It's just she neglected to do something nice. I'm trying to think of another example for that. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of another example of that. Just like favors in general. Like, if someone asks you for a ride to the airport, you literally can't just be like, no, I don't feel like it, right? And then, because all of a sudden it's your fucking fault that they have to get a taxi to the airport. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I was trying to see if I had any other notes here. The big thing I wanted to talk about was Dan shitting on the deck, because that did happen, and it's one of the things that I respect most about him to this day. He's 26 years old now, And I think that was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen him do still. So if you're watching, Dan, respect. This looks like it's going to be wrapping up in a second here because we're about to win. I remember finishing this game with no health left. So if anyone's listening, I'm sorry. I know I feel like I did a shitty job with this one, but they're going to pick up. They're going to keep on getting better. I'm working on it. I hope that you enjoyed the editing choice that I made to fast forward, so hopefully you can see a little bit more. I'm trying really hard to actually play the game, so when I die, the screen's not just sitting still in case I do decide to use these videos to throw behind, so it's not super boring. I know I did that a couple times this game, but I'm working on it. So thanks everyone who listened. I know most of you guys are my friends. If you are my friend and you suffered through this, you are a true friend. If you made it to the end here, thank you. And tell me what you think. Honestly, tell me what you think. Last week, one of you guys sent me a text saying you thought one part of it was funny, and that was awesome. That felt really good. So thank you very much. Anyone who's not a personal friend of mine, like, comment, subscribe. If you comment, I'll probably reply because you're probably the only one replying. Don't go to all, like, if you go to like a Cactus HD video, for example, and you leave a comment, does that fucking big shot even read his comments? I'll read your comment and I'll care what you say. I think we're streaming tomorrow night. Hopefully I'll get this uploaded. So we're going to stream a 2-stocked episode, which is the lifeblood of this channel. So check us out on Twitch. It's up on the screen right now. The YouTube channel, I will be posting about it on Instagram later and probably tweeting about it too. So if you follow any of those, you'll be keeping up with me perfectly. So thanks again, everyone, for listening, and I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Bye.